What's going on, everyone, and welcome into another episode of Expected Bets for your go-to podcast for all things hockey betting. Joined as always by my three co-hosts. Is Ned
Yeah,
there's Ned's
we
we
got
got Ned in
Ned
the
there.
action today. Ned's huge
Yeah,
Colorado Avalanche
Yes.
fan.
Yes.
Rebelling from his dad, who's a Utah fan. So go Ned, go. How's it going, guys?
Oh, pretty good. Interesting team here.
Well, Chicago to Colorado is a little bit of a difference too when we're going through our team
Yeah.
previews. So slight maybe adjustment on positivity levels that we have talking about each respective team. How we doing, Franco?
Yeah, we talked about the bottom of the division. Now we're going to talk about one of the teams towards the top. So this should be fun. I'm excited to look at this team.
Yeah. All right. With that being said, let's get into the team breakdown for the Colorado Avalanche. Getting into the team breakdown for the Colorado Avalanche. Wow, stumbled a little bit there. It feels like this team is going to be struggling without a few key pieces to the start of the season. Nichushkin suspended at least until November. Landeskog's status remains uncertain. O'Connor, we'll see how he recovers after that season-ending hip injury. And Lehkonen may also not be ready for the start of the season as well. So they still obviously have a few key pieces in place. But Betsky, what are your thoughts on this initial roster? They did make a few offseason additions, but not a big splash, I'd say.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, maybe Oliver Klington finally kind of has a coming out party in the NHL and puts up some points and can play the power play well. But man, Kovalenko, I guess, is your big interesting one. I didn't realize that he's a little bit more of a prospect that's a little bit highly touted, but he's still not exactly like a top 15 pick or something. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but he's got some experience in the KHL and whatnot, and you kind of hope he just kind of comes in and makes a difference. But this is a team that really made a couple moves that has really backfired for them. I mean, if you could rewind and you could re-sign Kadri instead of signing Nichushkin to that contract, I don't think there's one Colorado fan that would say they wouldn't do that. Obviously, the Landeskog injury issues is out of their control and has really hampered them. But man, it's crazy when you're pushed up against the cap how just a couple of the wrong decisions can affect you for so long. And this blue line still looks very good. I mean, Taves, McCarr, Gerard, Manson, he is what he is, but there's still tons of upside with the Taves McCarr pairing, obviously. And Gerard is a great top four piece, but I mean, you got goalie issues, you got depth issues, you got holes up and down the lineup, and if you get Nichushkin back and he's returns to form, and if Landeskog ever comes back and returns to form, now you look like a completely different team. But holy cow, this is a team that's one major injury away from collapse.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, too, to see how Middlestat gets a full season in that second center role, right? Because he had 10 points through 18 games in the regular season. He did have 9 points in the 11 playoff games they had, so he was pretty solid offensively for them in terms of a set 2C role. Franco, what are your thoughts on this team?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's kind of feels worrisome with the depth a little bit here, with all the pieces missing and all the question marks. I mean, Nichushkin was so good, man. It's such a damn shame what has kind of resulted from him. Departures, I mean, overall don't feel that significant. I mean, our biggest departure is Sean Walker, really, who only played a few games for them, really. Parise is really just up there in age. He had some decent, looking games towards the end of the season, but I mean, he's still on the downside of his career. So the losses don't feel that significant. Drouin kind of had his coming out party last year. Finally, he was a former very highly touted prospect and just kind of couldn't get it right and bounced around a lot. And now he gets to play with his best buddy McKinnon and kind of looked the part last year, at least for some stretches. I remember his point prop being pretty damn bettable and producing. But I think the most significant thing is Lehkonen. If he's not going to be right, it really, the forward depth just doesn't look as good without him, I feel like, because he's the guy that can slot in when like Rantanen is like underperforming, or if you want to kind of like switch up these top two lines, you move Rantanen down to the second and Lehkonen up. We've seen it a bunch. So I'm not super high on Middlestead in general. I know, former Sabre, so Gator knows well, but I don't know. The depth just doesn't feel as good as it has in the past when I look at this team on paper right now.
Yeah. This goaltending room is pretty interesting as well, right? Because Georgiev struggled last year, but he did play a ton of games, and then you have kind of their younger prospect in Anuin.
Yeah, you're right. Anuin.
Yeah. Used to Sandinen,
who came in last year and played Georgiev, right? So it's going to be an interesting situation to see how those two shape up. Can Georgiev return to form 2 seasons ago and kind of
form?
He was good 22-23 season.
I mean, he wasn't bad.
6th in the Vezina Trophy vote.
I would want to know what his
goal
saved above expected was that year.
Holy cow! Okay,
I feel like it was more the blue line in front of him than it was.
He ranked top third of the league in 5-on-5 goals saved above expected per 60.
Wow, I did not realize that. Yeah. Maybe it's that sour taste of the first round exit against the Kraken.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And last
sour taste.
I mean, last year he was playing way too much. Like they did not spell him nearly enough, and it just, you saw it firsthand.
Yeah, and maybe things do come together for this team, and they get a few of those key pieces back. And at the trade deadline, that's going to be kind of their big acquisition as they look for a goaltender who's available that can provide some additional support to this team. Any other thoughts on this roster, Betsky? They still have their key pieces, right? I think that's the biggest thing is they still have McKinnon, Rantanen, Makar, Lehkonen. Yep. Like they have their guys. But Franco made a good point in terms of depth after that. It really depends on who/when they like those depth pieces kind of come back into this lineup.
The only 2 secondary pieces that they still have are Taves and Girard, and I would count Landeskog, Nichushkin, and Lehkonen as the other 3. And right now, they aren't going to start the season with them. Lehkonen will come back, but the other 2 may not. Yeah. If Nichushkin comes back, this team arguably looks maybe better than last season on paper, but about the same, I guess. But, man.
They're getting a lot of love from the sports books, though. At their regular season points total, which we'll talk about a little bit, but at 102.5, they're expecting them to compete for this division with Dallas. We're getting to soon, but on paper, those rosters look different.
Yeah, the depth just doesn't match Dallas's. The one thing I would say is you have a little bit of a wild card in Kovalenko if he becomes a very productive player on that second line. That could be exciting. The other thing too is they have this kid Olsson as well, who played I think a game or 2 or 3 last year. He's another winger that they have. It kind of is surprising that they brought in all these guys that are like fringy type players like Parker Kelly and you have Chris Wagner up there as well. It's like, why not give a guy like that a shot as well and just kind of see what you got until you get your guys back, like until at least Lehkonen comes back, maybe give this guy some run. He's another, he's a former first round pick, obviously towards the back end. But again, kid's 21. This is the time usually when you start seeing these guys get called up and get a shot. Obviously, Colorado's depth has prevented guys like that from coming up in the last couple of years. But right now, I don't see that a reason why you keep a young guy down right now with this team.
Agree. All right, before we get into the best and worst case scenario for the Colorado Avalanche, I'd like to talk to you about our sponsor, BetterHelp. This episode of Expected Bets 4 is brought to you by BetterHelp.
Have you ever stopped to think about something new you'd love to learn? As adults, we don't always make the time to learn we used to when we were kids. Kids are constantly exploring and growing, but somewhere along the way, life gets busy and we lose some of that curiosity. What's something you've been wanting to dive into? Maybe it's cooking, picking up a new language, or even figure out your golf game to finally beat your new friend. Just because we're older doesn't mean we have to stop growing. In fact, therapy can help you reconnect with that sense of wonder. It reminds you that your back to school moment can happen at any time. Therapy is not just for people who have gone through something major, it's for anyone looking to be the best version of themselves. Therapy can help you learn positive ways to cope with stress, set healthy boundaries, and tackle challenges with more confidence. It's really about giving yourself the tools to thrive and grow, no matter what stage of life you're in. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/THPN today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/THPN. Now back to the show.
Getting into the best and worst case scenario for the Colorado Avalanche. Betsky, I'll start with you in terms of the best case scenario. It feels like they get those key depth pieces back, and that's going to be the difference maker for this team if they do eventually get to their best case scenario, which is they stay a cup contender and that window continues to be open.
Yeah, so good goaltending by Georgiev again, as you pointed out 2 seasons ago, top 6 in Vezina. I did not realize that, but solid performance in the playoffs from him. I mean, I still think this is a playoff team through and through, no matter what, unless McKinnon goes down. Outside of that, even if Makar goes down, and Makar didn't seem right all season long last year, and they're still a playoff team and kind of fighting for that top spot in the Central. But best case is probably Western Conference Finals to Stanley Cup, right? I mean, I think that's been the expectations the past 2 seasons, and they haven't gotten there. So really, a lot you could make the argument that 2 seasons ago, losing the Kraken in the first round, which was absolutely embarrassing. Shame on you, Colorado. Jeez, would be worst case scenario for that to happen to maybe someone like Utah. But I won't go get ahead of myself here. So best case, I think you're hoping for a Western Conference final appearance, if not a Stanley Cup final appearance, if not winning the Stanley Cup, because right now you are in the prime years, McKinnon, Makar, and Rantanen. This window is going to start closing real soon here, and they will have McKinnon is the same level as like a Crosby player. He's going to be able to pull this team forward into his 30s. Gosh, how old would he be right now? He was 2017, so he's probably like 30 right now. But I do feel like this team is a little bit in a retool right now, and you're going to keep on building around McKinnon, Rantanen, and Makar. Maybe cut some of this weight around the roster. Maybe Middlestad works out, maybe he doesn't. But I think this is going to be a team that could look very different in 2 years outside of those 3 players, and maybe they're better then. But you still are going to want this team to push as far as it possibly can for the next 5 years.
Yeah. Worst case scenario is weird for this team, as you mentioned, because, right, they are going to be a playoff. They're going to be in the playoffs, presumably. They do have a new threat emerging now, Nashville, you could say, with the offseason additions that they've made, trying to kind of get in contention for this Central Division title. Franco, throw it to you for the worst case. Obviously, they make the playoffs, but they're stuck in that weird limbo where they continue to get eliminated in the first, maybe the second round.
Yeah, I really do think that's the worst case. And like we said kind of before, with this depth, it doesn't feel as good as it has in the past. I mean, as good as Mac is, and we all love him, and he can carry this team so far. I mean, and Makar, really, the two of them are just on that whole nother planet. So despite the shortcomings of this team, I think if you get healthy going into the playoffs, this team could be very scary. But again, it's all about the health with this team. So I think the worst case is you have another, injury shortened or, something that is affecting one of these two players, whether it's McKinnon or Makar. And last year was Makar, right, where he just didn't look right for that long stretch. So I think that's your worst case, right? That you see one of those guys go down again and limited and just not the guy we like to see. But I still find it hard to feel down on this team no matter what. It's just like I don't know what it is, because when I look at this third and fourth line, I'm just not that excited about it, at least not as much as I have been in the past. But that blue line still looks damn good. I kind of like the addition of Shillington. I think he's a big, tough guy, and he's bounced back from some issues as well. So I think you put him on a team like this with this blue line, I think it's a damn good top six, or 6 guys on that blue line. So I think it's gonna be more of kind of like that, not as exciting of a team. Maybe they're more on the defensive side than they have been in the past, which is going to be kind of weird to feel about this team.
Yeah. Before we get into some team and player futures, I'd like to talk to you about our sponsor, DraftKings. TD, Tutty, taking it to the house. Whatever you call a touchdown, they matter more at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Ready to place your first NFL bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score a touchdown. The NFL season is back in full swing, and who doesn't love rooting for a touchdown? So be sure to check out the latest odds at DraftKings Sportsbook. Ready to do a touchdown dance of your own? Score big with DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $250 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 and get 1 month of NFL Plus Premium. Only at DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus Premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus Premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
Taking a look at some player point props, but before we do that, let's get into the team props because these are kind of interesting. The regular season points total is at 102.5. To make the playoffs, -525. No is +380. Division winner +240, conference winner +650, Stanley Cup 13-1. Franco, going to throw it back to you. Last season, how many points did they have? Let me check. 107.
It's crazy to me, man.
Yeah, right. Are you leaning on any of the points total, division, conference winner? It seems like we're not so high on them to win this division. Because even if they do get those key pieces back, it's not going to be towards, let's say, the middle of the season, early middle. So they're going to have to get out to a hot start, which we think they may kind of stumble out of the gate a little bit. So if you're almost more inclined to take the conference winner or Stanley Cup, if everything falls perfectly into place for this team.
Yeah, I think if they do stumble out of the gate, maybe this is a team you look at live, in the middle of the season. Yeah. When you start seeing news like, okay, Landeskog's skating or something like that, or Lekkonen's, skating with the team and looks like he could be back in a couple of weeks. I think you look at where they are in the standings at that point, check out how the other teams around them are performing, especially I think Dallas is like the main one we're going to be looking at, right? But just compare and see, and then look at the odds. I think you're going to be getting better odds than what we're seeing right now. Like these odds are as if they're still at the top of this division, the king of this division, and I don't feel like they should be. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, Betsky, any looks for you?
Yeah, I think I would want to go straight to conference winner here. Yeah, honestly, I mean, division win, that's more of an in-season bet. Try to get some extra juice out of that, or extra value rather.
But even like we said too, like the conference winner, right? 6.5 to 1 right now.
Yeah, that will
but
probably
that's everything falls into place before the season even starts that were giving them a chance to win this conference. So it feels like this is a live bet, like mid-season bet.
Yeah. I mean, if there's any rumblings of Nichushkin coming back and whatnot, that's probably the best time to place any of these.
Yeah, because if they get up to a slow start, that odds maybe creep up to 8-1, 7.5 to 1. You're going to get some better value on that when you have a few certain pieces that you know are coming back, right? So the lineup's shored up a little bit more, and you're going to get better odds on it. So I think that's the look. Getting to player points now, McKinnon at 121.5. Makar at 88.5, Rantanen at 102.5, Middlestat at 50.5, and Druin at 56.5. Their goal totals are interesting as well. Makar at 21.5, Rantanen at 41.5, McKinnon at 43.5, and Middlestat at 18.5. Betsky, any looks on these player futures?
Man. Well, if I'm going to take any of these Makar ones, I would rather just take his Norris for plus 200 because you're going to get a little bit of value. But man, even Norris trophy winner for plus 200 feels brutal. I'm just double checking. I got the number.
Yeah,
right
it's
on
correct.
that. Yeah,
He's the favorite, and his point total at 88.5. If he does win it, is minus 115, and you're getting 2-1. So there is some value there, but not a ton.
And you could almost go across the board here with McKinnon and say the same thing. I'd rather take him to win Art Ross or Hart than his over his points, especially Absolutely. Art Ross. Yeah. So really now you're looking at Rantanen, which gets a little scary. Yeah. So I guess then you're hoping that Middlestat or Druin are the guys that kind of benefit from one, playing with McKinnon if you're Druin, or two, playing with Rantanen if you're Middlestat. And they split up the two big names here. I think my favorite out of all these would be the Middlestat over 50.
That's interesting. I was
50 points
Druin.
isn't.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
a second line center with
that's
Wood.
a low amount for a top two center.
With Wood and Kovalenko.
And if Nichushkin comes back, then either Nichushkin or Rantanen are on his line.
You're right. He is solidified in that 2C role. And if they do come back, he's going to get better wingers.
Unless Landeskog comes back and takes the 2C, but
he always plays wing.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, at that point, yeah, I agree with you. I think the Rantanen number's too high. I think he had like 104 and 111 the last couple of years. So I mean, you're right at it.
If McKinnon goes down,
forget it, because he's if
McKinnon goes down, Middlestat becomes a smash probably.
I wonder though, do you move Rantanen down like you said? Like, does he make more sense on that second line to give you like two scoring lines, and you move a guy like Wood up or Kovalenko?
They did it all last year, but they also had Nichushkin for a lot of the season.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
like
a guy. I feel like a guy like Wood would be like kind of exciting on that top line. To be honest with you, I know he's not like a true top line forward or anything like that, but he does bring a lot of speed, a lot of energy, and that line would just be horrible to play against because even Drouin is pretty damn fast. So you put all three of them on the same line.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, looking at that Middlestat over 50.5, I do like that. So he's hit that points total in each of his last two seasons. And you make a good point, too, of his line mates are only going to improve as the season progresses, right?
Yeah. This entire team is only going to improve from what you're seeing on paper right now, whether that is Kovalenko being the guy, Nichushkin coming back, Landeskog, fingers crossed, coming back, and definitely Lehkonen coming back, right?
Yeah, his goal total is interesting, 18.5. He's never had 18 goals in a season. So
I wish I could get it back. I wish I could get that at, wow, I wonder what it would be at 20.
20, yeah, maybe get a little bit more. Yeah.
Any looks here for the trophies? We talked about Makar to win the Norris, the current favorite at 2-1. Georgiev to win the Vezina, 75-1. We talked about McKinnon for the Art Ross at 4-1. And you feel like if he hits that 121, there's some value there, especially where you're now open to hedge. If maybe McDavid or Draisaitl or one of the other players emerges in that market. So getting Mac at 4-1 seems not like a bad bet.
Yeah, even Max Hart is not too bad at 650. I think both are good looks, to be honest with you.
I feel like that's the one you want to start off with at this value, because now you can unload some other units to hedge, whether that's with the sprinkle of the guy that has much higher odds or the guy who's going to be like a sure favorite like McDavid, and maybe get him when he starts off a little slow and you get a little extra value, but you still ultimately have maybe the second, third favorite for all those awards locked in already at good value.
We talked about if the Avalanche do have one of these cup runs, McKinnon's going to be the catalyst in that equation, which leads that plus 650 to win the Hart. Seemed like a pretty decent look as well.
Yeah, especially if he carries them early. Like if we're talking that these guys aren't coming back till end of November, December, as opposed to early November, and this team is towards the top of the division before those guys even come back. I mean, you would have to make that argument. Honestly, I could see like that might be a prop that you would want to be looking at early, like the McKinnon 2 points prop, like to start the season, just start hammering. Because like I would assume it's probably going to open up at like a plus number. And then if he really does just go on that God level mode that he's able to go on, and he's just hitting it, 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 or something like that, you're gonna be looking at minus 140, minus 150 for it. So I might even be looking at that to start the season, to be honest, because he's that type of guy that's going to be like, all right, like I don't have all my dogs around me right now. Like I'm gonna have to be the guy to drive this team, and I'm gonna do it.
Now, when and who is the last consecutive Hart winning player in the NHL? Because McKinnon won it last year.
Crosby?
Wrong.
Consecutive Hart. That's interesting.
How far back are we going?
Well, I was saying when, if you want to give me a time frame estimate, but the latest consecutive.
Not sure. Who is it?
Somebody that we talked about while recording this grouping of episodes.
Ovi?
Yep.
Wow.
2008 and 2009 seasons.
I was going to say
2008 and 7.
I was going to say Chris Gratton, but
yep, back to back. Ovi, and then before that was Hasek in 97, 96. And then
he was so good there last stretch.
Maybe Georgiev starts his run now too.
There you go.
Then it takes you up until 1986 for another consecutive winner who won it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times in a row.
That's easy. Holy crap.
So what I was getting at though is I don't know if I want to lay McKinnon to win it back to back too hard.
Just because back to back.
That's true.
And again, I keep on saying this. I think if the league has an opportunity to not give it to McKinnon or McDavid for a couple of years, they will. So McDavid's always a very, very safe bet for the Hart, and there's a good chance he's going to win it this year. And since McKinnon won it last year, and it was a big reason why I think he won it, was of how his singular performance for Colorado last season. And I mean, wait, did he have the point total last year? Or did Kucherov?
Yeah, I can't remember if it was
Kucherov won the Art Ross last year.
Yeah. So
so it's going to be Kuch this year then.
That's
exactly.
Yeah,
if they're neck and neck.
I want. Yeah. Because especially with all the all-star stuff and kind of the poo-pooing of Kucherov last season.
The negative narrative, man, that killed him.
Yep. I would almost say that he had a bigger impact on Tampa than McKinnon did on Colorado to keep them in the playoffs. I mean, that team could have missed the playoffs without Kucherov.
Yeah, with the
goaltending they had.
Now he is officially that guy too, right? Stamkos is out of the picture.
Stamkos is gone.
Yep.
Kucherov at 20-1.
That's insane value compared
to win the Hart.
Yep.
That's not a bad angle. Is try to find that one superstar on the team where the roster is kind of just built around them, and he's their prolific scorer. So
yeah, I guess like take a look at your Art Ross
Pasternak at
odds.
20-1.
See, the problem is he's still kind of in that like same realm that Kucherov is, where he's like quote unquote not serious enough to win it.
I think the craziest thing I think about is like we're not even talking about Makar, and I feel like it's just so hard for defensemen to win it.
It's so stupid too, because honestly, like
he should be
Makar may be the second best player in the entire league.
Yeah, we should be talking about him too. Can you guys guess who won it? Who the last defenseman to win it was? Besky, you might right. You're looking at it.
I actually kind of scrolled through, so I'll take a guess on
Hedman or Weber?
No.
Lindstrom?
That was Chris Pronger in 2000.
Wow. All right.
And even before that, it was like 1,000 years before that. I mean, we're talking pre-Wayne now. So that's pretty crazy. I mean, defensemen just do not win this award. So just in case you're considering it, guys, I don't think it's worth it as much as I think he should have. We should be able to talk about Makar being in this conversation, and it's not a reality, unfortunately, for him.
Yeah.
Just stupid.
It's like with the Selke, anyone who's not a center.
How many Norrises does Lindstrom have, and he doesn't have a heart?
It's crazy.
10.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. All right. Let's wrap up here. Besky, any closing thoughts on this team?
I mean, this is going to be I feel like it's going to be a little bit of a roller coaster for Colorado fans all season. It's starting to feel like Colorado's kind of like Boston, where they win one cup kind of early in their big window. And gosh, if they can't figure out how to retool this team, do they ever win it again? Maybe they get there a couple more times, but it's like slightly heartbreaking to think of where they were at when McKinnon's contract felt like the best one in the league. And they had Rantanen as a super young. They had Makar super young, and everything seemed like they had insane depth on defense, and everything was in the right place. And now it seems like a Lego set that you're like struggling to rebuild because so many of your pieces are gone.
That's a great analogy.
Thank you.
It really is. Franco,
thank you, Prairie Brewing.
Any close? Yeah, we got to get you more in there. Shakespeare, Betsy,
that
is words of the day. Franco, any other thoughts?
No, I agree with you, man. Like it's McKinnon's 29 now, Makar's 25, which still feels really, really young. So I mean, the window isn't closed. Let's put it that way. If you're a Colorado fan, I wish that this was better. Like when I look at it on paper, maybe this team surprises us a little bit, and these depth pieces play over their head. But I just, from what it was a couple of years ago at this point, to what it is now, it feels like this team has been like stripped down for parts, and it's just a bunch of pieces thrown together, like you said. And I don't know what that means and what it means long term for this team. Like, what is this team going to look like in 2 years? Even like you know that McKinnon, Rantanen, and Makar are going to be there, but like, what else is going to be there as well? And I can't really answer that question right now. It just kind of feels weird when you see other, high profile teams, like even when you're talking about like the Maple Leafs, they've had that same core together forever. Not that they've won, but like usually you have that like solid core, and because you don't have Landeskog there, and Nichushkin now is questionable at best that he's even going to return. Like it just feels like a giant question mark now with this team just going forward in general.
Yeah,
I got a question for you before we end. If Toronto is in the West, would they be the second best team?
No.
They look better than Colorado on paper in a lot of ways, outside of a true like game changer on the blue line. I would say
I think Colorado's
blue
line is better,
right? Because Edmonton's won.
Really?
I don't
overall. Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
But the forwards are so much better for.
Yeah, the forward group is better. I mean, Wool's still a question mark if we're talking goaltending. I would rather probably have Georgiev as much as I don't love Georgiev, but
yeah, man,
that's
Dallas?
tough. That's tough. I mean, what are we saying? Dallas is the best in the West? Or are we saying Edmonton is like
Edmonton, Dallas, 1,
okay,
2,
so then
and
maybe third.
yeah, easily third.
Colorado's easily the third on paper. You could make an argument maybe for
Yes.
Vancouver,
Vegas, too.
or Vegas. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You know,
We haven't even gotten to these teams yet. I don't know how to feel about them yet.
how would
I'll
Toronto
actually-
fare in the West, though? That's another question, too, right?
That is too.
Yeah. All right. I want to thank everyone for listening to this episode of Expected Bets 4. Be sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube so you never miss an episode. Chugging along here on the team previews. Just started the Central, so we'll have tons of great content coming out soon. The NHL season is just around the corner. First Global Series game October 4th and 5th, and then opening night October 8th. As always, be sure to check out our social media on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And thank you again to our sponsors, BetterHelp and DraftKings. We appreciate everyone for listening, and we will talk to you guys soon.